Hi, I'm Chris, and today I'm going to be replacing the rubber wheels on this Ender 5 with a linear rail. Let's find out how I do it, and let's find out if it actually makes a difference in the performance of this printer right here on Kersey Fabrications. Let's go. So first things first, if you're new to my channel or you haven't seen any of the previous Ender 5 upgrade videos, why don't you go watch that playlist first. I'll include a link and you can go take a look at those and get caught up on where we are to this point. So I'm going to pause right here for a second, let you know what's going on. So while this video began as just like any of my other videos of a quick tutorial of how to install an upgrade, what happened was that I kind of underestimated what it was going to take to actually get this mod done. And so instead of, a quick 20-30 minute sort of walkthrough, this turned into a project where I had multiple bumps along the way. I had to make multiple modifications and new models. And so this video starts a series of videos that actually shows you the process that I went through to develop this mod. I hope this is an interesting and entertaining video for you. So let me know what you think about this format. Let me know if you still want kind of a quicker process video, and leave me a comment, like this video if you enjoyed it, and let's get on with the series. From there, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually be replacing the rubber wheels that come as the default method of motion on this printer with a linear rail system. So why would you want to do this? Well, first of all, the rubber wheels on the printer actually have a little bit of give in them. They may be hard rubber, but there's actually a little bit of flex to them. And particularly since there's screws and everything, there's multiple pieces to it, there's a little bit of give that can actually affect the print quality of your final print. The other thing about these wheels that I particularly don't like is they get very dirty. By rolling along that wheel, they pick up the dust. It's one more thing that you have to clean off with compressed air or a cloth, occasionally on the printer. So by moving to linear rails, what are we doing? The linear rails have been designed to be high precision pieces of equipment. And what that means is that we won't get the flex that you get in this system. You'll get the higher quality linear rails you buy, the higher accuracy you're actually going to get on your printer. So to do this mod, what I've done is I've got three 300 millimeter rails. I'm going to have to put one on each side, and then I'm going to have to put one on the x-axis to move the X gantry. Now what I've done, instead of a lot of complicated or time-consuming modifications to this printer in terms of like drilling into the mounting plates that are there, mounting it directly to the metal, I've actually come up with some mounts that will allow you to, without modifying any of the hardware that comes on your printer, we'll be able to keep all of the original components to this. We'll be able to simply mount them in place to the existing mounting plates, keep all of the motion the same that it was before, so there's no changes to the firmware, there's no changes to anything. We can simply do this modification. It should be quick and easy. I'm going to share all of the files that you need to do this after we're done. So from here, let's get this project started by heading over to the table. I'll show you all of the components that you need to make this modification, and we will begin stepping through the process. When we're done, I've got a lot of prints for comparison, and we're going to see if this actually made a difference to the overall quality of this 3D printer. Let's go. So here we are with all the components that I believe we're going to need to put this together. Let's start out with the linear rails. So these rails, as I said, I purchased these off of Amazon. I will include the link in the description to where you can get the ones I bought. These are 12 millimeter linear rails, MGN12, and these are the MGN12H carriages. Keep in mind there are two carriages. There's the 12H and the 12C carriages. I'm using the H to fit my adapters. And as you can see, these move really well. I'm actually impressed with the quality of these. So let's talk about how these work. If you look right in here, hopefully I'm getting good focus. If you look right in here, there is a rail, a strip of ball bearings. The ball bearings actually move in here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this. If not, I will include an animation or a picture to show you how it works. But there's a whole rail of ball bearings that run through this system, and it actually moves as you move this rail along. and so that's what gives you the good fluid motion on these. So these rails are hardened. I believe they're hardened steel, and they are completely inflexible. It's not going to matter a whole lot. We're going to mount these directly to our aluminum extrusions, but this should add some additional rigidity to the whole system. So when I'm working with these, what I do, and you can see here, I've already done this for all three of these, I actually cut slits in the packages and actually make it where I can work directly on the mount at this point. But what you want to make sure you don't do when working with linear rails, do not take these out of the package and have the actual carriage slide off the end of the rail. If this comes off the rail, the chances are you're going to lose ball bearings and have to try to reassemble this entire setup. Don't do it. Make sure that you're protected. Make sure anytime you're holding this, you're either holding it in a way where it can't fall off, or you're holding both ends of the carriage so that you don't have to worry about it. So next part of the assembly are these 3D printed adapters that I've made. These are going to be available on Thingiverse. And these 3D printed adapters printed in some of the firmer plastic that I've got, something what I would call more mechanical grade plastic. It makes sure that it's rigid, that it doesn't have a lot of flex in it, even if you try to flex it. This is going to make what we're doing here actually work, as opposed to if you use something softer that has a lot of give to it. You may not see the benefits of this rails. This is high temperature PLA. This is printed at 235 degrees. Coax LLC, which I've shown on my channel before, makes some good high temperature PLA, or some higher temperature PLA that's great for this. I'm not using their product here, mainly because I wanted to use a color that showed up well in the video. So this is from another manufacturer. This yellow shows up better. It's good filament for this, but let's move on to how we put this together. So for each of these rails, these two are for the Y-axis. This one is going to be for the X-axis. And we're simply going to mount these with the various screws that I've got laid out here. Let's kind of go over with the, first of all, the other hardware that we're going to need. To do all of the mounting of the plastic components to the carriages, I've got 12 M3 8mm screws. To do the mounting of the rails to the aluminum extrusions, I've got a total of 36 T-nuts with M3 8 screws. That's 12 per rail. And to do the final mounting of the adapters to the Ender 5, I've got 11 M5 16mm screws, and then I have 11 lock washers and 11 nuts for those M5 screws. Let's get to assembling this. These go on this way. Keep in mind, orientation on these will matter, because these are actually, I believe, 20 by 20 millimeter screw hole patterns, which means they could be put on either way, but if you put them on the wrong way, they're not going to attach to the printer. So when you're looking at how this is assembled, you'll notice that the screws actually should be flush, or almost flush, hopefully they're flush, with the top of the plastic. They actually need to be embedded and flush so that when you put the Ender 5 components on top of this, that they sit flush against it. That's why they're embedded this way. That's why these are as thick as they are. We're going to attach the second one. And then the final one, so these are going to be moving along the Y-axis in this direction. This is the X-axis component. And on the X-axis, the two wheels are on the top and the one wheel's on the bottom. So this is going to go on in this orientation. Obviously, make sure when you're attaching this to not get your plastic stuck between them, otherwise you're going to be assembling. Now, as I've mentioned in previous videos, please make sure that your printer is calibrated. Anytime you're printing mechanical parts, if your printer is not calibrated, this is most likely not going to fit together, because it has to line up perfectly with the holes. There's no give, there's no extra, movement that I've allowed for this part. It expects to be attached in a rigid method. Okay, so now what we need to do is actually this is where we're going to have to get these out of here. So I'm going to grab it. I'm going to make sure I cut out here. Again, be careful when doing these steps. When this is off, it could fly off the end, and if it flies off the end, you're going to be looking for ball bearings, which isn't going to be fun for anybody. So next up, we're going to take it. I'm going to put all of our screws for the mounting. You need to do this first because these T-nuts have to rotate in. So you're going to want this attached to your rail before you go trying to attach it to your printer. I have to admit, if I get through this whole process without losing a carriage off the end, I'll actually be pretty impressed. But I'm trying to palm it so that that doesn't happen. And yes, you do want to put in all of these screws because it keeps your rail true with your extrusion. And while I'm attaching all of these different screws for this project, let's talk about my channel. So if you enjoy what I'm doing here, there's a couple of ways you can help. As you shop Amazon with the links that I use, all of the parts that you buy as a result of following my links, as well as some of the other components that may be in your cart, all contribute to this channel. Now if you want to contribute directly, you can take a look at my Patreon account, which I just started, and contribute every month to this channel. It makes sure that I keep having enough funds to buy components. And if you look at the goals for the channel, you may find other rewards that you're interested in. They may have, they may be other projects that I want to take on that I need funds to actually attempt. And they may be simple rewards like a live stream that only Patreons get to attend, things like that. So head over to Patreon, take a look at their site so that you can contribute to this channel. Again, none of that is required. I do this voluntarily and I enjoy contributing to the community. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for sharing this video. That's what helps as well. And let's get back to the build. All right, there we go. I'm going to look over these, make sure that I got all of these nuts on in the right direction, because if not, that's going to make it a pain when I go for assembly. And there we go. Let's head over to the printer. All right, so here I am at the printer. This is my first time doing this, so let's see how this is going to actually come apart. First thing I want to do is loosen up these belts. Loosen this up. There we go, a little bit of leverage. Now this loosens up. Actually get the belt out of the way if I need to. Should be able to pull this out, I think. If not, then I'll just go without it. There we go. Now the belt is loose. I can make sure it's out of my way. So these should come off next. We will take the wheels off on this axis. And none of these components, unfortunately, can actually be reused in the mod because they're too long. For the record, this is an 8mm socket wrench that I'm using to hold the nuts. All right, let's grab one of our rails. And we need to align all of these up. To make this easier, insert into the rail. Some of these need to come down a little bit. There needs to be a gap between them. If you don't have a gap, go ahead and lower them a little bit. Otherwise, they're not all going to tighten to the rail when we go to tighten them. Okay. And line them up to be parallel to the rail. Making sure that you don't lose your carriage. There we go. You're going to want to just make sure that you are centered between the end stop and the L bracket here, because this actually fits almost perfectly between those. Now we're going to grab our M3 screwdriver, start tightening these down. Let's go ahead and remove the other side. Let's go ahead and get my camera mount out of the way for now. That's going to get in the way. If you missed the video where I showed this camera mount, I'll post a link. I forgot to remove the belt, so let's go and do that next. Loosen this up. Loosen these up. Let's put on the other side. Okay, both of these axes are on the rails. Now we can go ahead and attach the carriages back to this rail. Move back to the center so they have something to rest on. And that's what I forgot. Nice. So, as you'll see here, there's screws right here and right here. And those are in the way. So next up, we redesign these parts. And we come right back, replace them, and we start from where we left off. Before I go any further with redesigning these and making a spot for those holes, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and remove this axis as well to make sure that this one's not going to have a similar problem that needs a small redesign. There you go, remove this belt, loosen that up. Looks like I'm actually going to have to remove the hot end in order to get to this screw here, unless I can just do it with the nut. Let's find out. Nope. It's all turning. So I'm gonna have to get that out of the way first. All right, let's get off the piece here. Get off the top of this nozzle. I think, maybe, really don't want to. What are we gonna do about it? Let's think. Can I really get in here? Really, kinda, sorta. Let's find out. Really gonna be a pain. It's the wrong way. Yeah, see, this is a lock nut back here. This is not going to be easy. But if I get it off, I don't have to put it back on. Maybe I've got it. That saves me a lot of time. Yep, it's coming. If I dislodge that tube, I have to go through the whole process of reseating it, which I really don't want to have to do. I think I've got it. Go. 1, 2, and this is going to fall, so be very careful. There we go. But now I'm still going to run into the problem. No way. Not going to be easy. More dust and grime. Check that out. Right there. See that? Oh, you can't see it. Can I get it where you can see it? Let's find out. Check that out. That is not a clean wheel. There. Look at that. All gunking up my system. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So let's back out. Oop, wrong way. Let's take a look. Can't get that one out. Let's find out how this fits on here. Let's see here. What does this look like? Let's get that bottom wheel off also. Now I do have to take that off to be able to get to that. So the shroud's coming off. Turn the printer back off. Let's get this one off. So this one was attached the other direction. So the head of the screw is on that side. Now we can actually work here. This is how we do this. You come in here, grab, and we just pull everything out of the way while we work on it. There you go. This is my first time pulling apart this whole assembly. This helps me decide how to put it together. There you go. I want to lose those screws, make sure those sit in there. Now, this screw can come out. Now we can get this one out as well. I see this is going to require a couple of holes here. And what I'm going to do, so this is where we iterate. And I will reprint this one real quick too. So all my holes line up. I'm going to need another hole here, which I could just drill, but since I want to share this model with all of you, I'm going to actually iterate the model and make sure that I've got holes there. They need to be a big round, which about the same size as that hole, a little bit bigger. Right. Time to do a quick redesign and come right back to it. So that's it for part one. Let me know what you think about how it's going. Let me know what you think about this format. Leave a comment down below, and thanks for watching.